A long time ago, amidst the golden and scorching deserts of Arabia, far away from the noise and chaos of the world, a small village was settled. This village was very silent, so silent that even the whispering sound of the wind blowing at night could be clearly heard. Here lived a young man named Zain. Zain was a very kind-hearted and simple-natured person. He strictly offered prayers 5 times a day in the mosque, served his elderly parents with all his heart and soul, and worked hard in the fields under the harsh sun all day long. Outwardly, his life was very peaceful and organized, but inside him, in the depths of his heart, a strange restlessness was growing. He often felt that his life had become like stagnant water, clean, but with no flow, no new freshness, and no movement. He would look at the sky for hours and think, is Islam only about these few rituals, or is its scope much bigger than this small village of mine? Often in the evening, when the sun was setting and the sky covered itself in a blanket of red and orange colors, Zain would sit on the raw platform outside the village mosque. The village Imam used to sit there daily. He was an elderly man with great knowledge and a glowing face. Just sitting near him made a person's heart melt. One evening, Zain gathered his courage, decided to lighten the burden of his heart, and sat close to the Imam. He said in a suppressed voice, "Imam, I do the same work every day, the same worship, and see the same faces. I know this is a great blessing from God, but why is my heart not satisfied? Why do I feel that to find God, to recognize Him, I must go somewhere else? People say travel, see the world, but when everything is here, why should I leave my home and my peace?" The Imam took a deep breath, stroked his white beard, and looked into Zain's eyes, speaking very gently. "My child Zain, you are right. God is everywhere. He is closer to us than our own neck vein. No place is needed to find Him. But remember one thing, when water stays stopped in one place for many days, it often spoils and moss begins to gather in it. But when that same water flows and strikes against the stones, it remains clean, pure, and clear like glass. The human soul is also a traveler. God did not create us just to stay frozen in one place." The Imam then referred to a beautiful verse from the Holy Quran, explaining that God has clearly said to walk through the earth and observe how He began creation. The Imam placed his hand on Zain's shoulder and said, "Zain, travel is not just about covering distance with your feet. Travel is the name of thinking deeply and recognizing your own worth. When you leave your home, your soft bed, and your family habits, you are actually breaking your ego. And remember, only when this ego breaks do you find the Lord." Zain asked nervously, "But Imam, there are many hardships in travel. There is hunger, thirst, and fear of unknown paths." The Imam smiled, a sparkle appeared in his eyes, and he said, "That is the secret, my son. It is mentioned in the Hadith that our beloved Prophet said, travel is a piece of torment. It stops you from your sleep, delicious food, and drink. But just think, why would God, who loves His servant more than 70 mothers, give him pain? It is so that by burning in this furnace of hardship, your sins may fall off like dry leaves, and your patience becomes like pure gold. Go Zain, go towards Medina. Gain knowledge and see with your own eyes how big God's world is and how small we are before it." That night, Zain kept tossing and turning. He could not sleep. The Imam's words were ringing in his ears like an echo. The next morning, with the call of the dawn prayer, he made his decision. He went to his mother. A mother is a mother after all. Hearing the news of her son going to a foreign land, her heart came to her mouth and tears filled her eyes, but she did not stop him. She kissed Zain's forehead with her trembling hands and said, "Go, my son, may God keep you in His protection. Remember, God never rejects the prayer of a traveler. Do not forget us on the way." Zain packed very little luggage, which included an old sheet, some dry dates, and a leather bag for water. When he crossed the threshold of his house, his steps paused for a moment. He turned back to look at his childhood home. There was moisture in his eyes, but a strong resolve in his heart. He recited the prayer which is the greatest weapon of every traveler. "Glory be to Him who has subjected this to us, and we were not capable of subduing it." The village was left behind, and the familiar streets faded away. Now it was just Zain, and the endless, silent desert spread out before him. The first few days passed in excitement and enthusiasm, but as he moved forward, the desolation and silence of the desert began to overpower him. There was no one to talk to, no one to listen, just the sound of his own footsteps and the noise of his own breath. In this deep loneliness, Zain felt intensely for the first time in his life how dependent he was on God, how helpless he was. At home, water was available as soon as he felt thirsty, and his mother gave food as soon as he felt hungry. But here for every sip and every bite, he had to wait for God's mercy. On the third day of the journey, a great trial came. The sun was raining fire from the sky, the sand was burning like a hot pan, and Zain's water ran out. His throat dried up like a thorn, crusts formed on his lips, and his tongue began sticking to the roof of his mouth. Far and wide there were only golden dunes of sand shining in the sun. There was no sign of water. He began to feel dizzy, and darkness started clouding his eyes. In this fragile moment, the devil started putting doubts and bad thoughts into his heart. Why did you leave home? Look, you will die right here, a pointless death. No one will come to save you. There is still time. Turn back. Zain stumbled and fell into the shade of a dried-up tree. His physical strength was giving up, but then he remembered the Imam's words about Tawakkul, complete trust in God. With his dry and trembling tongue, he prayed, "O Allah, I have come out to understand your religion, to recognize you. Do not let me be wasted in this wilderness. Please help me." Just then, as if a miracle happened, he saw very faint dust flying on the horizon in the distance. He rubbed his blurry eyes. He felt perhaps this was a desert mirage. But no, it was a reality. A small caravan was slowly moving towards him. Zain used his remaining strength to wave his hand. The people of the caravan saw the falling traveler. They jumped off their camels and ran towards him. Without asking who he was, which tribe he belonged to, whether he was rich or poor, they first put the water bag to his dry lips. The coolness of that water ran through Zain's veins and brought life back into him. The leader of that caravan, who had a majestic face, fed Zain some dates and said, "Young man, do not panic. Our Prophet ﷺ has taught that whoever believes in Allah and the last day should honor his guest. You are our guest." That day, Zain learned that humanity and brotherhood are not things to be read in books, but duties to be fulfilled on the road. He felt how God sends help to his servants through strangers at exactly the right time. Zain traveled with that caravan for a few days and then turned towards his destination, Medina. After many weeks of difficult and exhausting travel, one day he saw lush green date palm gardens and the walls of a city on the distant horizon. This was Medina, the city of the Prophet, the city of peace. As soon as Zain took his first step into the city, he felt a strange coolness in the winds and a deep peace in his heart. A peace that he had never found even on the softest bed in his village. He went straight to the Prophet's mosque. There, he saw a completely different, unique sight of the world. There were not just Arabs there, but some were white, some were black, some had come from Persia and some from distant Africa, some were from Rome and some from the East. Different colors, different races, different languages, but all stood in the same row, shoulder to shoulder, bowing before the same Lord. Seeing this scene, tears began flowing uncontrollably from Zain's eyes. He remembered that verse of the Quran where Allah says, "We divided you into tribes and groups so that you may recognize one another, not to be arrogant." Here, there was no difference between rich and poor. The king and the beggar were equal. In Medina, Zain spent his time gaining knowledge. He began sitting daily in the gathering of a great scholar. One day, finding an opportunity, Zain asked the Sheikh, "Sheikh, I have come from so far, suffered so many hardships, endured hunger and thirst. What reward, what return will I get for this?" The Sheikh smiled, placed his hand on Zain's shoulder, and said, "Zain, it comes in the hadith that whoever walks on the path to gain knowledge, Allah makes the path to paradise easy for him. And listen, travel gives a person 3 such precious things that can never be found sitting in the corner of a house." Zain asked with great curiosity, "What are those 3 things, Sheikh?" The Sheikh explained, "The first is the acceptance of prayer. It is in the hadith that God never rejects the prayer of a traveler. When you call out to the Lord in a foreign land, helpless and broken, there remains no curtain between you and Allah. The doors of the sky open immediately." The second thing is patience and character. A person's true character, his reality, comes out during travel. At home, when all comforts are there, everyone is good. But when food is not available in the journey, the ride gets tired, companions bother you. At that time, whoever does not get angry and keeps patience is the true believer. This journey has broken your ego and made you humble. And the third thing is the reality of the world. You saw how vast, how wide this world is, and what small specks we are in this universe. This realization brings you closer to Allah's greatness and uproots arrogance from inside you. After spending several months in Medina, when Zain became spiritually wealthy and his heart was filled with light, he began to miss his home and elderly parents. According to the Prophet's way, when the purpose of travel is fulfilled, the traveler should return to his family soon. Zain began his return journey. This time the scene was the same, the desert was the same, but Zain had changed. He had even less luggage, his clothes had become old and torn, his shoes were worn out, but his face was shining with a light like the full moon. Now he did not fear the desert sun, rather he saw Allah's craftsmanship and His power in every grain of sand. When he reached back to his village after weeks, it was evening. It was the same old scene, the same mosque, the same platform, the same people, but to the onlookers it seemed Zain had changed. The villagers saw a dust-covered, tired and exhausted young man coming. They ran to him. His friends surrounded him and asked in surprise, "Hey Zain, you have returned completely empty-handed? You did not do any big trade, did not bring sacks of gold and silver, did not bring any expensive goods. After doing such a long, such a difficult journey, what did you get in the end? You just wasted your time." Zain looked at the sky with a deep, satisfied smile and said, "My naive friends, I have not returned empty-handed. I have brought that wealth which can never be stolen, which never gets old. I have brought certainty with me. I have learned that whether we are sitting comfortably in our homes or not, actually we are all on a journey. This world is a waiting room, an inn, and our real home, our permanent address is the hereafter. The person who is light in the journey, who keeps less luggage, reaches the destination faster and more easily. Similarly, in life, whoever keeps the burden of sins and desires light will reach Allah just as easily." The Imam, who was standing behind the crowd listening to all this, had tears of joy welling up in his old eyes. He tore through the crowd, came forward, hugged Zain and said, "Congratulations, my child. Today you have truly returned as a ghazi, as a winner. You traveled against your own self, along with the journey of the world, and came back victorious. Remember, the best journey is not the one done only with feet, but the greatest journey is the one done with the heart. That is, from sin towards virtue, from darkness towards light, and from yourself towards God." And from that day on, Zain's life changed. He did not just read the prayer, but he offered every prayer as if it were his spiritual journey, as if he were seeing Allah. He gathered the young men of the village and taught them that Allah's earth is very vast. Go out, look, travel, and recognize your Lord. Because the journey that connects a person to Allah is the only journey that is truly successful. So friends, this story teaches us how important it is to step out of our daily comforts, our comfort zone, whether it is to gain knowledge, to earn an honest living, or just to see Allah's nature. When you leave home, you are in Allah's special protection. So the next time you go on any journey, do not just look at the sights, do not just take selfies, but remember the Creator who made all this for you. May Allah grant us and you success and goodness in both the outward and the inner journeys.